often when you go from stop to forward to reverse, basically load and unload, you get a click in from the rear end. Some people think it's the axle, something is the diff, something is the axle nuts. Well, often it is the axle nuts, which is behind this cover. It's a free change or a free modification. It's not even a modification, it's just kind of addressing a potential issue. But behind this cover, there is a nut that is attached to the axle that torques the axle. Often the axle will actually have a little bit of movement back and forth. It's a spline similar to how a clutch spline is. And by loading and unloading, you'll get like a click. If you retorque the nut behind here, 99% of the time it fixes the issue. Let me show you it real quick. So once you have the nut exposed, you'll see that it's being peened over right here. Pretty easy to do. Get yourself a flat blade screwdriver, get one that you don't mind hitting with a hammer, and what I would do is put it level with that slot and just tap that straight in there. Now I'm going to use a 36mm socket and a 2-foot 1/2-inch stripe breaker bar right here. Looks like somebody has been in here before, so we don't know how tight this is. It might take a lot of breaking loose. Often, if you need more than this, we'll put a lever on this and hopefully get it to break loose. So once you get this loose, take the nut all the way off. Now this is your spline behind here. Again, kind of looks like a clutch spline, but one of the tips that I've got for you right here is there's a lot of friction on this nut, on this surface right here, and on the thread. So what I often do is clean these areas here, clean this, and then I would put a little of the ARP lube on this surface and the thread. It allows it to torque a little bit more accurately. Again, there's friction here. Remember, whenever you're torquing a nut, as you tighten this, you've got so much friction on here, it will often give you a false torque reading and you won't torque it as tight as it should be. So ARP lube on here and on the thread, put it back on and torque it to the factory torque specs. So torquing it back to factory specs, you can see here that the peened area is now past where it was before, which means we've actually got more torque on that nut. And a lot of it is because we reduced the friction on the threads and the surface. So don't forget, peen that area over, which is basically just like a lock for your nut, stop the nut backing off. But that is the pretty easy way to fix your axle click.